Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to cover a tragic event that happened at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta, Georgia, where 2 employees were killed and 1 was injured when a Delta aircraft tire exploded. There are some conflicting reports as to what happened, so it's important to wait for the investigation to develop. That's why I usually don't rush to make a video when something like this happens. I'm waiting for the story to develop and maybe more information to come out, but in this case, nothing has happened. But let's go ahead and look at a couple of clips that were put out on Tuesday.
The 3 victims were Delta employees working at the Technical Operations Maintenance Facility near the International Terminal.
First responders began rushing to the scene of Delta's Technical Operation Maintenance Facility wheel and brake shop.
The explosion happened as the tire was being removed from the plane.
According to Delta, Marweg and 37-year-old Luis Alderando died just after 5 a.m. while working with wheel components being disassembled for maintenance that were not on an aircraft. Olmerko's son Andre tells me that his dad worked for Delta for over 20 years and was actually set to retire in about 2 to 3 months. He worked here in the painting shop and did maintenance for Delta.
The reporting indicates that a Delta employee and a contractor were killed and a 3rd employee was injured. The employee that was killed is reported to have worked for the painting shop and did maintenance work for Delta. Now that's odd because those 2 jobs don't normally cross over, but we'll get to that later. One report says the explosion happened while the wheel was being removed from the aircraft. Another report shows the death's injury occurred on a 757 that had arrived 2 days earlier from Las Vegas, and the wheel exploded while they were changing it. And then other reports say that they were working on the wheel and tire away from the aircraft. So it was already off the aircraft and in another location. Whether that location is into a shop, just on the floor, away from the aircraft, we don't know. Aviation maintenance does have its risk, and we're going to listen to a couple of people who are going to tell you a little bit more about that. So let's go to those videos.
Aviation, it has risk, both for pilots and for mechanics.
Now, this first guy, he tells you that there's risk for the pilots and the mechanic, but it goes far beyond that, as we've seen over the last couple of years. The risks are for the pilots, the mechanics, the passengers, everybody involved with aviation, all the ground crew. They're all at risk. Anytime you're around aviation, things happen. You need to be aware of the risk. Even as a passenger, you need to be aware of the risk. So let's continue.
Aircraft maintenance is one of the most dangerous jobs that there is.
John Golia is a former NTSB board member.
The tire itself very often doesn't disintegrate. It's the rim that lets go. And those bolts that go around the rim, if they were to fail outward, it's like a projectile. It can be like a bullet coming off of those rims.
So in many aircraft, the way you put a tire on an airplane is you get the tire in the middle and you bring the 2 halves in together and they bolt together.
So here's a diagram of a typical aircraft tire. It may not be the exact one because I don't have access to their manuals and their documents to see if it's the exact one. But this is a good representation of what the wheel looks like, a part and all the components that go into putting it together. You're also going to see the wheel assembled, and you see all the bolts that go around, and those are the bolts that he's talking about. When doing an investigation, it's not a good idea to come up with an idea of what happened. We all have an idea of what happened, but we don't want to start from that point. We want to start looking at what happened because you might develop some sort of confirmation bias where you look for things that will confirm what you believe and disregard things that may disprove what you believe. So here are some of the questions that I came up with. So I'm going to go ahead and read them off to you a little bit at a time. The first thing, I want to go all the way back to the beginning. Why was the wheel removed? Was it because of time? Was there damage? Was there damage to the wheel or the tire? Those are things we need to know why it was actually taken off the plane. Who removed the wheel from the aircraft? Was it the line mechanics? Was it the hangar mechanics? Or was it the shop mechanics, the wheel and brake mechanics? Typically, the wheel and brake mechanics will not be removing things from the aircraft. That'll be the line mechanics or the shop hangar mechanics job, and the shop mechanics just work on the components in the shops or wherever they work on them at. When the wheel was removed, was the removal procedure followed? For instance, was the tire deflated? At what point was it deflated? Is it supposed to be deflated before you remove it, or is it supposed to be deflated before you send it to the shop? Don't know that yet either. Was this all done in one shift, or was a shift turnover necessary? Did they start the job on one shift and end the job on the other shift? So was there a turnover that was necessary that wasn't conducted correctly? I don't know. Was the wheel being worked going to be installed on the same aircraft? That aircraft arrived 2 days ago. So did they take it off 2 days ago, or did they just take it off that night? Were they going to take it off, do whatever they needed to do, and put it back on, or was another wheel put on and they were just going to work that and put it on a different aircraft? And that would go to any time constraints they might have in trying to get the job done. So they might have been trying to do it quickly. Does it happen during the breakdown of the wheel and tire, or does it happen during the assembly of the wheel and tire? Like I said, it's been 2 days. They may have already broken it down and they're putting it back together and reinflating it. Did it happen due to the wheel or tire being damaged or not following the procedure for putting it back together? I mean, when they got the wheel and tire, did they make sure that it was deflated before they started taking it apart? Did they use a cage if they were reinflating it to make sure that everything was working correctly and there were no problems? Assuming that it occurred on assembly and not disassembly, was the equipment operating properly? You have a pressure gauge that you're using to inflate the tire. So was it calibrated? Was it operating properly? Was the nitrogen cart they were using operating properly? Did they follow the procedure? Did they try to inflate it too quickly? These things have to be inflated slowly and slowly build pressure. So sometimes the mechanic might be in a hurry. Now, those were all procedural questions. So now I want to look at some qualification questions that I have. Did the employees working on removal of the wheel and maintenance on the wheel have A&P licenses? Were they certified by the FAA, or were they just trained by Delta? Was the employee who was killed assigned to the paint shop? And if so, was he working on the wheel, or was he just in the area and that's how he was just in the blast zone? Like I said, painting and maintenance don't normally cross over. You'll have people in the paint shop that are not licensed to go actually work on the plane or the components. They do the painting, sanding, painting, and stuff like that. So that's the question. Does Delta have a program that allows this type of crossover work? What training did all the individuals involved have? So you have the line mechanics, you have the hangar mechanics, you have the wheel and brake mechanics. What type of training or certification do all those have? What type of experience do they have? What type of experience did the contractor have? What kind of certification did he have? Did Boeing provide any training to the contractor? These are the type of questions that just run through my mind whenever I'm trying to figure out what might have happened. And these aren't all the questions that should be asked, but these are the ones that I came up with quickly. Now, the next couple of videos are going to talk about the investigation that's going on. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of those clips and see what's going on.
Meanwhile, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also known as OSHA, is conducting their own investigation into this incident.
Delta says it's conducting a full investigation into exactly what happened. The FAA is aware. In the meantime,
The Federal Aviation Administration says they are aware of the incident and are in communication with Delta.
What's being reported is OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, is doing their own investigation into this incident. And Delta is doing their own investigation into this incident. And the FAA is aware. So my question is, isn't the death of individuals reason enough to launch an FAA investigation? Why would they not launch an investigation immediately? Or why would they wait? That's just a question I have. It just seems to me that if somebody has died during this type of incident, then the FAA, who is the regulating authority in maintenance, certification, would want to launch an investigation to find out why that happened, and not just wait for Delta to tell them what happened, or OSHA to tell them what happened. They're not the regulating agency in this field. The FAA is. So does the FAA not just want to report on allowing people that maybe not be certified to do this type of work, but they're allowing it? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Should the FAA launch an investigation, or should they already have launched the investigation?
Armstrong says he's confident the airline will do a thorough internal investigation.
Once they find out how it did happen, it will not happen again.
I don't share his confidence. When people are involved, things happen. Sometimes bad things happen. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the notification. Peace out.